Okay, we are recording. So, few housekeeping issues here, and I think you guys are already all over it. Is in chat, this is where you get to do a lot of networking, okay? But what's important is when you post something in chat, you want to make sure that you select all panelists and all attendees. So I'm picking on Maureen Washburn, and I'm going to repost her chat here because hers just went to the panelists and not all panelists, all attendees. Unfortunately, there's not a default that just goes to all attendees. If there was, I would be working on that. Same with Eric Reynolds. I'm reposting yours. So just take a look at your chat postings in there and see if it says from me to all panelists and attendees, and just make, if not, just repost. It's okay. This is, the chat is the area for you to network, for you to brainstorm, for you to make connections with other providers. Put your website, put your email, put your phone number there if you're open to people contacting you. This is 100 times better than the old-fashioned meetings that we used to do, where you used to have to hunt around and look for business cards. Now we can share our details and what's going on and things of that nature. So again, just remember, great job, Bonnie Elliott. All panelists, all attendees. Great job, Ken Silverstein and Todd with Senior Handy Services, Queenie. Yeah, this is awesome, guys. Okay, so we got the chat taken care of. You guys see our fun little poll going on while we're chatting here. Feel free to take that. I'm really kind of curious, and I know you all are curious about what's everybody's vibe on what's going to happen in the future here. Let's see. I am just. Oh man. Okay. Let's see. Hold on. I got our other speaker, Charles, that I want to make sure who gets on. Okay, so keep on chatting, guys, while I'm sending out this email to our second speaker, Charles. Okay, so now the way today is going to go is we've got an awesome online discussion planned on the future of aging services. We're trying to do these every week, and this week I've got two tech entrepreneurs that have radically different products, and they're going to tell us a little bit about how they dreamed up these ideas, how they've pivoted and adapted over the years, and how they are and then give you a little bit of an overview of their services. But learning about these resources for our clients and our organizations, that's just the first step, okay? What I really, and that's going to be a great resource for all of you, but really what I want to, what I want these discussions to be is the opportunity to dream and to brainstorm and to think about your own organization and how you can kind of get outside of the box and advance the services that we're providing to older adults and families. And so the part of this is learning about these interesting resources, but part of it is about is inspiration. All right, we got Charles on, promoting him to panelist, and unmuting. Can you hear me, Charles?
Yeah, can you?
Yep, we can hear you, and I'm bringing you and Anthony on board here. Anthony, unmute and show yourself here.
Hey, Steve.
Okay, and then, all right. Okay, we got our 2 panel members here. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and let's get this started. And I'm going to take a look at this poll, guys. It's it looks like it's a dead heat that we think that there's going to either be more new systems than old ways of doing things, or life is going to be radically different when we get through this COVID crisis. So that's pretty good. And all right, so let's get on with the discussion today. All right, we got 2 awesome entrepreneurs that I've really admired over the years for their tenacity and their creativity and what they're doing to sort of reinvent the way that we support older adults and take care of our elders. And it's Charles D. Vilmorin from RUDY-SENIOR and Anthony Nunez from INF Robotics, or as I affectionately call him, he's on my phone as Mr. Roboto. Anyways, we're going to kind of do a little back and forth here. And again, just as a reminder, guys, if you've got questions for either one of these gentlemen, or okay, use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Type them in there, okay? You can also raise your hand in the participants. Under participants, you can raise your hand, okay? And we'll get you on, and it's gonna be like Q&A all day here, all right? Make sure that you're not putting your questions in the chat. Use the chat to sort of interact with all the participants that are on this call, and we've got over 100 people on right now. So anyways, let me start with Charles here, because I've known Charles the longest. Charles, tell us a little bit about yourself and how'd you get into this business, and what is RUDY-SENIOR? Sure.
Thanks, Stephen. Actually, thanks for the opportunity today. So my name is Charles Vilmorin, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called RUDY-SENIOR. We're based in DC, and what we do is we provide what's called a resident engagement platform for senior living. So in other words, we build tools to help providers in IL, but mostly assisted living, memory care, and the nursing home environment engage their residents in a very meaningful, purposeful, and sometimes therapeutic way. And I started the company more than 10 years ago. And I can tell you that when I started the company, one of the biggest luck I got was that we got selected by the MIT local chapter for a business plan competition. And one of the judges was Steve. That's how I got to meet Steve. And Steve was extremely helpful, helping us understand not only the local market, right? I was born and raised in France and didn't have many connections in the area. So Steve really helped me for that, as he's probably done it for a lot of you in the audience. But where Steve also helped me and my co-founder a lot was really this intersection of entrepreneurship and aging. And kudos to you, Steve. I think everyone would agree that there aren't many people like that. And so we were lucky. So that's us, that's me. And
yeah. No, it's great. And one of the things that we'll get in here, I want to introduce Anthony, but I really want Charles, for you to talk a little bit about, after we meet Anthony, I want you to talk a little bit about the path that your company has taken. It's sort of, I think one of the things that all of us get stuck on is that I have to do this that way. This is the way that it's done. You know, whether it be home care, senior living, what have you, we get stuck, okay? And when you hear Charles's story, he has made so many modifications to what he has done to adapt to the market, to adapt to changing technology. And now in this, what this COVID-19 crisis is telling us all is how the way we were doing business before, it's got to change, and we've all got to adapt. And so I'd love to get a little bit of your insight on that. Anthony is Anthony Nunez, Mr. Roboto, is another guy who's made some huge adaptations. And he's CEO of INF Robotics, which is based originally out of an incubator at George Mason University in Washington, D.C. area. Anthony, tell us a little bit about your story briefly. Whoops, I got to unmute you. Okay, now I got you.
All right, great. Steve, thanks for putting this together. As always, your events are always, very helpful, very insightful. I've appreciated going to, your events over the years. Hi, everyone. My name's Anthony. I am the founder of INF Robotics. Now we are known more as INF CARE because of the expanded services we are offering. What we've developed, we've developed a robot called RUDY that is very affordable, very easy to use, and designed specifically for seniors. But it's also designed to help home care agencies. And the goal is to help home care agencies operate more efficiently, more effectively, and more affordably. So oftentimes when someone hears the word robot, they automatically think high cost, very difficult to use, and scary. It's quite the opposite with our solution. Our solution actually reduces costs across the board to the user, to the client. It actually brings it down by 60%. We reduce costs for home care agencies by 42% right off the bat. And we're able to drive outcomes more effectively. And if you look at what RUDY does really well, is he helps you understand your clients better. We focus right now on the early stages of care, companion care, getting in there early and extending that independence time. So a little bit about myself. The reason I got into this is because of personal experience with my grandmother. Some of you who have attended Steve's past meetings may have heard me reference this before, but for those of you who haven't, my grandmother lost her independence. We had put, technologies in her home that failed, that did not do the job of keeping her independent. And then I saw firsthand at a young age the high cost of home care, the difficulty of home care, the constant transition of caregivers, and the inability to help drive outcomes when they weren't there. And so I wanted to do something about it. So I took, a lot of my experience, took my knowledge about home health care, and applied it to develop RUDY.
Yeah, and again, when we talk about adaptation, Anthony's first kind of approach to this, the robot, was in senior living communities. It was sort of, you were thinking that, hey, this would be a great tool to be rolling around these senior living communities, and that's where his prototypes was being used. And then he stumbled into, wow, this robot could provide more affordable sort of home companionship and support. And we'll get into the details on both of these products in a little bit, but you've made a lot of adaptations too, So Charles, back to you. Tell us a little bit about, kind of where you started and where you are now. And if you want to pull up any slides or anything like that, I did post your website in the chat to get an idea on what Linked Senior does. And I am particularly fascinated by the metrics that your product delivers.
Sure. So thanks for the opportunity. So should I just explain what
sure,
it is?
This is great.
Background?
Yeah, this is great.
Do you want me to like a few minutes?
Yeah, just jump in, and then Anthony will talk about your thing. We'll talk about RUDY after this, and then everybody be thinking about questions. You can start asking questions whenever.
Yeah, so I'll just take a few minutes, and Stephen, if it's too long, you just kind of tell me to go faster. But essentially, well, we define resident engagement. Well, let me back up. So first of all, we've been extremely lucky in growing the company, and a lot of it had to do with what Stephen mentioned earlier, which is that, you know, I think one of the reasons why we did so well is that we just were able to adapt ourselves like crazy almost all the time, which is something that I hope we never lose as an organization. So to give you some background, I started this company with my co-founder in DC more than 10 years ago, and we've grown now to be one of the platforms doing what's called resident engagement. There are other products in the market. I invite you to consider them. But essentially, we help providers, whether it's independent living, assisted living, memory care, nursing homes, provide a purposeful engagement to their residents. We're very proud of the fact-based platform. To Stephen's point, we were the first ones to actually really, quote unquote, measure community.
Hey, Charles.
Yeah.
Your audio is not coming through all that clear, just an FYI.
Okay, do you want me to call in, or is it okay?
I think it's just kind of going in and out, but
okay. Is it okay now? So
I can.
If it drops again, I'll call in with my phone.
Okay. Yeah, and then maybe, yeah, if it starts dropping, then maybe you can call in, and then Anthony can kind of jump in.
Yeah. So essentially, as Stephen was saying, a lot of our work has been about measuring engagement. So, you know, for some of you that work in communities, it's essentially measuring the work of the activity director. So I'll just, for the interest of time, just skip a few slides, but essentially, you know, the typical engagement in the market today isn't great. You know, we look at data and we see residents that spend most of their days doing nothing much. And our big quote unquote enemy is what's called the 3 Bs: bingo, Bible, and birthdays. So we're all about how can we provide the staff with ways to answer simple questions such as, are we engaging everyone? Are we engaging people on who they are? And so on and so on. So that's the background on the company. We've learned a lot from a business standpoint in the past month on how to adapt. And Stephen, did you want me to get into lessons learned now, or should I go more into the product? What would you like me to do?
Yeah, let's just do a quick overview of the product, and let me kind of share with I'll share with the audience kind of my vision, or my kind of how I've sort of seen the product, and maybe you can kind of jump in and correct me. But what I thought was fascinating is Charles started this, and he was basically using iPods in senior living communities, because way back then, that was innovative technology, and just being able to listen to different music and things of that nature. And as the iPod developed, Link Senior began to expand and develop. And I was blown away the last time that I saw a demo, because in essence, what the communities, they subscribe to a service through you that can be delivered on iPads, computers, phones, what have you. But that service enables, if it's fully utilized, enables a community to have metrics on what every resident is about, what every the different activities and interests that the residents are engaged in. And, you know, from a management perspective, it's fantastic. But from a family perspective, to have a report on all the different things that my mom was involved in over the month is absolutely amazing.
Right. Yeah, so Stephen's right. When I initially had the first idea of the company, it was exactly when the iPod came out, and so I thought it was very unfair that we could all be entertained almost forever, and that most residents did not have access to quote unquote their source of purpose. So our initial idea, and I remember in the area driving back and forth between different communities with my trunk full of the MP3 players I'd bought on eBay, and I would go in and interview residents and ask them what kind of music they wanted, and then go back and forth and provide them with that. What happened at the time was people liked it, but it wasn't really helping the staff, which is ultimately what we realize is that there is often a very passionate staff member that wants to engage the older adult, but often that person uses a little bit too much paper. So we, and that was one of our first of many, quote unquote, pivoted to allow more programs to be delivered through different apps. And we've evolved since. And right now, you know, from that perspective, for me, the biggest lesson learned was when I certified myself as an activity director, to understand what do these people do in the first place and how can we help them. So now we're very much about supporting the workflow that these people try to do. And so on my screen right now, I'm showing, you know, the typical activity director, the 101, the job description is to know the residents, plan, engage, and evaluate. And so we're big into this idea of residents, so you could quote unquote prescribe it instead of, you know, for example, music in the context of music therapy, instead of antipsychotics or antidepressants and so on. And so we're big into supporting that through different apps, I should say. And to Steve's point, the measurement aspect for us is extremely important. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's, this is awesome. Awesome overview. And Charles, you had a question. Can this tech from Todd, can this tech be applied in a residential setting? So could, for example, could a home care agency or a family utilize it?
Yes, the answer is yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. No, that's great. Okay, and so Anthony, let's get you on here and tell us a little bit about Rudy and what it's all about. And if you need to share your screen, by all means, go ahead and do so. And actually, Anthony, you've already got a question. Todd asks, does technology exist for a robot to help in transfers? I know your robot doesn't do transfers, but I believe there are some insanely expensive and huge robots that do that, correct?
Yeah, the technology does exist, but it's concept only. There's no market ready ones available. The concept ones that are being sold typically are coming out of Japan, and you're looking at $500,000 in that range. I'm trying to share my screen, and it's not letting me, Steve.
Hey, Charles, can you unshare your screen?
Yes. Stop share. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So you should be able to jump on there now, Anthony. Okay. Awesome. All right.
Great.
Yeah. Give us a little overview of Rudy.
Yeah. So Rudy focuses on 4 key concepts. These are the key reasons older adults lose their independence. The way it works now is INF Robotics does all the heavy lifting. A home care agency does not have to own Rudy. They don't have to store Rudy. They don't have to deliver Rudy. We carry all that weight on our side, including maintenance. What we do is we drop Rudy off in the home of the older adult, and Rudy focuses on memory. Memory also ties in medication adherence. We focus on depression. Rudy does a great job of keeping older adults in a positive mood. We also put Rudy in for fall risk reduction. This is very important because there, are major reasons why older adults lose their independence, and it's because they're falling. But we need to keep them active. And so how do you keep someone active without increasing the risk of falls? And that's actually something Rudy does really well. He has a range of activities to get older adults up and moving. And in fact, what we've seen with clients that have not had a Rudy and then post have a Rudy, after they had a Rudy, they've actually been 5 times more active than they were before Rudy actually came in the home. And it's really because of, not just because it's a mobile platform, because not every robot is the same. It has to do with the way we approach the senior. You have to really understand that older adults and technology are still like oil and water. It's very difficult to get them to mix. But what we've done with Rudy is we've designed Rudy in such a way that they emotionally bond with Rudy and our software in less than 2 hours. What we get post those 2 hours of emotional bonding now is they're using it organically. No one is having to prompt them. You don't have to call and remind them. You don't have to point them to it. They're using it as part of their workflow, a part of their daily flow as they move about their home. It's very exciting because, number one, it is helping them stay on task. It's helping them drive those outcomes to keep them independent. But more importantly, it's helping the home care agencies understand their clients' patterns. Before Rudy, we had no idea what was going on in the home of the older adult when the caregiver wasn't present. If you look at how companion care is structured, for 4 hours for $100, and then you have a 20-hour or so dark window until the next visit, you had no idea what was taking place in that period of time. Now with Rudy, we do. The other key aspect is now we provide remote patient monitoring through Rudy. So now you don't have to offer that window of 4 hours. You can spread that across the day more evenly to the key periods of time when you need to get eyes on older adult. An example is with their medication schedule. So that's really important. And so from the caregiver side, they actually get access to the Rudy app. They're able to do those remote patient monitoring check-ins where they're able to move around, look at the user space, communicate with them. They're able to read reports prior to those check-ins. That's very important because now you're not just coming in blind to a situation on a remote video session. That's very challenging when you have no idea what's going on to just kind of jump in and start communicating. Now you can actually see what's been going on. How have their patterns changed over the course since your last visit? And then you're able to set target goals where Rudy, the platform, is actually going to automate and drive those outcomes. So for example, if I have a client that's not being active, I can set metrics on Rudy so that he will actually ensure that older adult gets active. If I have an older adult that's really depressed, very lonely, maybe something tragic just happened in their life, I can set Rudy's metrics to address that full steam ahead. So it's very exciting because we've made it very simple for home care agencies to implement. The keys are you're really getting more actionable information. I think that's super important because if you look at the industry now, there's a lack of data that's flowing, but more importantly, actionable information. You don't just want raw data. You want to be able to understand your clients better, but more importantly, you're lowering costs across the board. As I mentioned, 60% lower costs now to get clients in the door for companion care, which for home care agencies is really the beginning of your pipeline. They're going to funnel down to full-time service and ADLs, but they're going to start at companion care, and we're helping them bring them into the fold. So that's important. We're really optimizing treatment plans, moving KPIs, which are very important because you can actually show families that you are checking in. We have EVV already implemented. You're able to show them what the activity's been like with their older, loved one that you're caring for, and then really help improve that decision making. Because again, at some point they're going to transition in care. How do you know where that point is exactly? Right now, the way it's done, it could be done better with actionable information. And so Rudy's bringing that to the table. He's, bringing, historical data as to, what's been going on the last 2 weeks versus today, and how is that, shown an improvement or a decline. So it's really important that, we get in there and we help home care agencies. And one of the things that we're doing now to really help COVID is we've actually taken Rudy's heart and soul, which is that software that emotionally bonds to older adults, that gets them to do things they need to do, and we've ported it over to a mobile device because we recognize that older adults don't want someone in the home per se. And so we actually are shipping these directly to clients. We've already been started doing that. So if you're interested, definitely reach out to me directly. If you have clients that are refusing service, which is a trend that's starting to tick upwards, reach out to us. Let us know what your problems are. We can discuss implementation and how easy and low cost it can be for you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
This is great. Thank you, both gentlemen, for such quick, concise overviews. So questions are starting to come in, but since it's already come in for both of you, let's address it right now. Cost of your products. So Charles, what is the cost to be a subscriber to Link Senior?
Yeah, so our typical pricing is per unit or per bed per year, and we start around $50 per year. So if I have a 60-unit assisted living or memory care, it would be 60 times 50.
Great. Okay, which is in the scheme of things is pretty darn affordable. And I recommend, if you're in a senior community and you haven't seen the demo of Link Senior, check it out and evaluate it, in the scheme of things. But that's pretty good pricing. I didn't realize it was that affordable. And then Anthony, how does your pricing structure work?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, home care agencies do not own the technology. We have a business model that's very flexible. Obviously, it is contingent on a lot of different things and other factors. But reach out to me directly. Happy to go over that, with the home care agency once we understand your problem. And as I mentioned, there's a bunch of factors. But what I can tell you is that it will lower your cost by 42% on labor side, and really increase your effectiveness and lower the price point for customers to get in the door. Because I'm sure, as every home care agency on this call is aware of, one of the first questions you get out of a potential client is, what's the cost? I only need 15 minutes in the morning and afternoon for my mom to make sure she gets out of bed and takes her medication. Well, the way we operate now is it's going to have to, be in a 4-hour block. They're going to have to decide, or in some cases we can do different. But how do you operate now with COVID, where someone doesn't want a human in the home and they're refusing service? And that's where Rudy and also the Rudy tablets shine and really help your business continue generating revenue, continue operating, and staying ahead of trends, which is very important right now.
Yeah, really good, really good. I like how you've adapted with COVID-19, and I can see where that could make a lot of sense. Charles, what are some of the things that you're seeing in the COVID-19? And then I'm gonna start hitting all the questions in the Q&A there. But what have you done, or what have you seen with your clients and adaptations with COVID-19?
Yeah, can I actually share my screen again on that? Because
Sure.
there's a lot of fun. It's not that there's a lot of finding, but it's
no, absolutely. Yeah.
So obviously COVID-19 has dramatically changed all of their lives, right? All of our lives. And so, as I said before, our clients are communities, and the people that use us are activity directors, and they've been going through a lot. So the first thing I should say, if there is anyone in that position right now on the call, I want to thank you for the work that you do. It's essential, and it's essential in the sense that you're helping us bring purpose to these older adults. And I think you're bringing humanity back to this industry. Now, Steve, I'm going to get to your question now, which is, in the last month, how has the world of activities or resident engagement changed? And obviously it's changed in very profound ways, where a lot of it is actually going to stay, unfortunately, for a good period of time. And so I'll go quickly through these, but the essential part is, because the communities are under some form of lockdown, we didn't realize, but we did this analysis, the typical activity director or community relies on like, outside help in the form of entertainers, member of the clergy, or volunteers or family member to conduct programs. And so that's gone, right? The other thing that's gone is the idea that we can do a lot of group activities. So if my community wants to engage all of the residents, how do I do that? And we know, because we've checked, we now have estimated that it can double or triple the amount of required from the staff perspective. And then finally, that's also a big takeaway, is that the staff is asked to do other things, such as helping with dining services or other functions. So for us, the biggest lesson learned is that the core need that we were serving, which is a lot about staff efficiency and person-centered care, that need literally has exploded. I was talking to a client actually this morning. They've run analysis on, they have 31 buildings, 31 independent communities. And on average, they estimate that they're going to have to find a way to hire up to one person full-time more for that position if they want to keep the same quality they were doing before. So for us, the biggest lesson learned right now is that staff augmentation, which has always been a hot topic, is even more important. Because you got to fight isolation, which has always been there, but now is really core and part of that pandemic.
Yeah.
Is that
man.
helpful?
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Excellent. And okay, so let's see. Anthony has been going crazy on the Q&A while you were talking. I think he answered most of the questions that were typed in there. I had a big long list, so that's fantastic. And I answered a question for Charles that was, what's the best way to request a demo for Linked Senior? And that's just to contact you. I put your email in there.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on here. All right, so, okay, well, guys, let's, let me go to the participant thing. I would love to hear from some of the folks that are on the call. Feel free to raise your hand. You just go in under participants, and you can raise your hand if you want to share anything with our moderators, with the audience, what have you. Again, we've got Anthony and Charles here to sort of provide inspiration on two very creative entrepreneurs. But what we want these calls to be is sort of an online discussion on sort of future challenges that we're all faced with and how we can creatively approach solutions together. Now, Anthony, I know you had one of the questions was asking, you've sort of pivoted your business to focus primarily on home care, but there was a question about, you know, providing Rudy in the communities. Are you doing that still?
We haven't been in the communities in the last 6 months. However, we actually recently engaged one right prior to the COVID outbreak and isolation orders. We had an assisted living community on deck that we were actually going to start putting Rudy's out to. Right now, we have a couple that we're talking to. Of course, the engagement side, Rudy does an excellent job of getting older adults up and about. You know, one of the things you can envision in an assisted living community is each older adult having their own Rudy and being able to interact with it in their rooms separately, but then go out into the community setting. So it's actually very exciting what we've seen before. In fact, we did a lot of that at some here in Virginia, also some in Falls Church, DC as well. So it's something where, you know, we're watching the situation as it unfolds, you know, because again, we want to make sure older adults stay safe. You know, we would have to physically drop off the unit We're trying to coordinate the best way to do that so that everybody's comfortable. But I think there's definitely a need and a use case in it for assisted living communities now more than ever. So we are taking a hard look at it.
Yeah, and one of the things, there was a comment on how Rudy's design and his look, but one of the things that I've admired with both of you gentlemen is how in technology, prototypes and modifications, that's part of the game. Like you almost expect never to come out of the gate with the right product. And that's one of the things that I see that in a more traditional business like senior living that we struggle with is that it's sort of like this feeling like it's got to be right the right time. And it's just sort of setting yourself up to pivot and change. And especially in this new era that we're going into. Cordell has raised his hand. Cordell, tell everybody where you're from.
I'm from Tribute at Melford. We're a senior living community located in Bowie, Maryland. I'm the community relations coordinator there. Thank you again for a great opportunity here to speak with Anthony and Charles. Two questions. One for Anthony. I thought I saw something that said one of the advantages of Rudy or a service like that is that it reduces the risk of falls. How does it do that? Did I read that right, or is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, so for the mobile platform, one of the things Rudy does really well is reduce the risk of falls. Now, he does it a couple ways. If you look at why seniors fall, there are a variety of reasons, but it really hones down to a few. And number one is, if you look at a senior carrying 3 to 5 pounds, a lot of their focus goes onto that 3 to 5 pounds that they're carrying in their hand, and not to their gait motion, or not to what's in front of them, or to their walking path. Rudy offloads that onto himself, so he actually carries up to 10 pounds for the older adult. The other thing is identifying fall hazards, tripping hazards in their walking paths. That's something Rudy does an exceptional job at as well. And then he really addresses it at its core. Seniors getting lightheaded, getting dizzy for either missing medication or forgetting to eat. These are things Rudy does really well to address it before it becomes an issue. So he's very proactive, and that's something that at INF Robotics and now INF CARE, we've been very focused on, is providing a proactive solution, not a reactive one. Get in there early, understand what's going on, drive the outcomes, and identify things before they become a problem.
Cool. Okay. Thanks. All right. Thanks, Cordell. And we've got Mary Ellen Connect. Mary Ellen, can you hear us?
That was an accident. I was just trying to see if I had contact for Cordell Martin.
Oh, that's okay. But tell everybody who you are, Mary Ellen.
Lower hand. Oh,
okay. All right. Mary Ellen Connect is with the medical team. And actually, I'm glad that I saw her name there, because the parent company of the medical team has some interesting technology that we can feature here in weeks to come. And Dana Bradley from the Erickson School. Dana? Hello. All right. Let's see. Well, okay.
Yeah. Thanks so much. I had to unmute the technology, right? Sometimes it gets in between things. I am so excited to see everyone on this get together, right? It's not really a meeting. We're like of one mind. And I am particularly excited about ways that we can support folks that are entering into this entrepreneurial space. So it was a question, but let me put it on air to our two panelists. It's a challenging time, but sometimes amazing things happen. If my team knows, I say never miss the opportunity of a crisis. Right? So that backdrop. The economy is a little challenging now. Panelists, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs? I'm going to say young, but I don't mean chronologically young. I mean coming into the market with a kick-ass idea. What advice would you give to them? Thank you.
Oh, great question. What do you think, guys?
I'll go first. Okay. You know, I'm sorry, I was answering questions as well. My advice would be to surround yourself with a support system. Number one, you know, obviously, first thing an entrepreneur's mind is capital. But what I would do is surround yourself with a support system that goes beyond capital, that offers that expertise that maybe you don't have in areas that you can foresee coming down the road. So you're going to have to look a little bit ahead. Surround yourself with people that can help you on your forward path. Get them in the loop now, and get people, you know, that believe in you around you, because, you know, there are going to be challenging times, and those people's kind words, support are going to be very important.
Yeah, and Anthony,
One of those people for me. So
yeah,
I want to give credit to Steve, because I've known him since 2012, or, you know, maybe even a little before that. But you know, Steve's been great at doing that. So hats off.
you know, the individual that asked that question is the dean of the Erickson School of Aging Studies at UMBC, and you, I believe, were part of an incubator at George Mason University. So the tie-in with university support is how was that helpful to you?
Yeah, I think, you know, being in the incubator was a good setting for us. You know, obviously, you know, every company is different, right? You know, I think what set us apart in the fact that we were a hardware company in a non-hardware traditional area. I know Maryland's kind of expanding more into the hardware side with drones and other technologies that are very exciting. So I'd love to, you know, see how we might, you know, I might be able to support, you know, that effort as well. So feel free to, you know, connect with me offline.
No, that's great. And Charles, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs out there? And I've always admired Charles because he's from France, and it's sort of like, it's hard enough to start a business in your own company. I can't imagine what it's like to be in a foreign country and start a business. However, American capitalism is everything on France, correct?
I'm not going to get into politics, but I can tell you that I think I was very fortunate to be in the US when I started. You know, it's a funny question, because I obviously now we know that we're going to go through a recession. You know, I started LINK-SENIOR actually just before 2008. The very initial ideas for us, it's kind of our second recession, so hopefully we'll survive as well. But you know, besides that, I would say that for me, the most important part, you know, obviously I agree with Anthony on surrounding yourself with people that are supportive. For me, the thing that has helped the most is to really understand why it is, you know, I don't mean it like an exercise that everybody should do, sit down and do it, but I think that the more you really understand what's driving you, the better, right? So, you know, there's this amazing talk from Simon Sinek, I think that everybody knows about it, you know, like the defining your why. But for us, it's kind of allow us to be extremely flexible while staying core to what we want, right? And so, Steve, I know you know this, but you know, everyone on the audience, we have this initiative called Old People Are Cool that we started 4 years ago, but that was just kind of resurfacing. It was resurfacing what we always wanted to do, which is to help the aging experience with dignity and respect and so on and so on. And, you know, Steve, I shared it very quickly, but with COVID-19, that got us to continue thinking about our quote unquote why. And we launched this big initiative 2 weeks ago called ActivitiesStron, which is way bigger than us as a company, which is about the activity director world and how do we celebrate them. But so that's a long answer to your question, but I think that for me personally, working on this why, and the second thing is just to have fun. Like having fun is probably the second reason why, you know, we've been successful. Is as much as the why is important, how do you make the whole experience not suck every day and as fun as possible?
Great. And actually, Charles, that's kind of a good lead in on what we're trying to capture with these webinars in the ProAging online community is very much in the same spirit as the ActivitiesStron initiative and, you know, the old people are cool. It's when we all come together and we all kind of like when I love just glancing at the chat and seeing everybody kind of having this dialogue back and forth. And the idea that, you know, in hearing your all stories today, that it might inspire somebody in the audience to think a little bit differently or come up with an idea or just even pose a question that we could all kind of rally around and come up with a solution. I think that's super important. And so kudos to you on that, and kudos to both of you guys. Well,
you know, Steve, you know, I think you could answer that question as well, right? I mean, you know, with less technology, you are also one of the successful founders and entrepreneurs in the area. What do you think of that question?
Yeah, I mean, I
didn't put you on the spot, but I mean, I've learned from you, honestly, this, like at the very beginning. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, it's interesting because I think this platform and this topic today really sort of, instead of like what Anthony said, I think is true. Surround yourself with positive people that feed your creativity. And that's what, because I was always sort of this lone wolf entrepreneur, where I get my energy is in hosting events like this, is to be surrounded by hundreds of people that are in this field and committed to better serving older adults. That sort of feeds my creativity and my energy. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is really what I feel that you guys are living examples of is just working hard, not giving up. If you get stuck, get yourself unstuck and try something different. And I've sort of kind of lived that lifestyle, you know, for the last 30 years, but it's much more authentic when I bring guys like you to the table to sort of share your stories, but you're living examples of that. So, well, guys and attendees, this has been awesome. We're running out of time. I like to wrap these things up in an hour or less. Next week we have two founding pioneers. They're the founders of the technology called GrandPad, and so we're going to have those guys on for a similar session. So that'll be really good, I think. And let's see. I did press record. So we're going to have a recording of this, and we're going to have a full transcript of the entire chat that I'll be sending out later this afternoon. But in closing, Anthony and Charles, anything you guys want to throw in before I hit the end meeting button?
Yeah, sure. Steve, thanks for this. Anyone on the call, I was trying to field all the questions I could. Feel free to reach out to me at anthony@inf.care directly. Happy to go over details, happy to see how we could help your situation, even if it's not directly in home care or assisted living care. I know there was a couple people asking for individuals who cannot hear well or in wheelchairs. Reach out to us. We've had situations in those manners. So look forward to following up on some conversations with everyone. Thank you.
Cool. Anything, Charles, you want to add?
Like Anthony, good luck to everyone. Crazy times. We're here to help. I'll add that if anyone has crazy ideas in terms of entrepreneurship, I'm also very happy to help just as a sharing stories and so on. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Take care.